I'm just answering questions from the work yesterday. Well, thank you. We're going to see where we land. I will say, let me say this about factoring and solving polynomials, because remember, a quadratic is a polynomial, but every polynomial is not quadratic, right? And we've already solved, and I'm sorry I don't have as much of a voice today, but we've already solved quadratics. And whenever we solve quadratics, how many solutions do we get? 2. We get 2 solutions, right? And sometimes it might be that they're 2 imaginary solutions, and sometimes it's what we call a repeated solution. So I do want, this is kind of a little bit of new stuff, but I don't remember if this was in the video or not. But a repeated solution happens if, bless you, I have something like this. This really is x minus 2, x minus 2. So the I don't know why I picked 2, that's terrible. But the 2 happens twice. So in the video, I think I mentioned that the degree of the polynomial indicates how many solutions you have. But sometimes those solutions are repeated solutions. So yes, this technically just has this one solution, but it's what we call a repeated solution because it happens twice. The other thing that I can't remember if I mentioned in the video or not is multiplicity. Did I talk about multiplicity? Okay, so multiplicity deals with how many times a repeated solution occurs. So I think I wanted to get to this before break, and I think I must have skipped over it. In other words, here, yes, x equals 2 is a solution. It's a solution of multiplicity 2. Okay? And the reason this is important is because the multiplicity tells me a little bit about the graph. Okay, bless you. If the multiplicity is even, okay, happens twice, 4 times, 6 times, 8 times. If that number is even, that tells me that the graph bounces off of that point. It doesn't actually go through right there. Just like this one, see how it like touches it and then whoop, it bounces back up? That's because it has even multiplicity there. So it's a repeated solution, multiplicity 2, and it causes it to bounce. Now, if that multiplicity is odd, that tells me that I go straight through. So if the multiplicity is 1, it only happens once, or 3, or whatever it is. This one would have odd multiplicity because see how it goes straight through? But this one would have even multiplicity. Does that make sense? And I'll show you, as we go through these polynomials, we'll keep bringing that terminology back in so you'll understand. Odd multiplicity. Even bounces on the x-axis, and then odd goes through on the x-axis. So yes, the degree of the polynomial matches the number of solutions, but some of those solutions could be repeated solutions. If I start not making sense, let me know. What? Peru? All right, so let's bring all this together with some polynomials. The only difference in solving polynomials as opposed to solving quadratics is there's more than 2 solutions when I do it. Okay, but all those things we talked about before break, whenever we factor polynomials, we're still going to do the same thing here. So give me some questions from your homework. Let's start with the first one through, 16? And give me questions about those. Number 9. Yeah. 6 and then 9. 8x to the 5th plus 5x squared equals 4x squared. Now my first question to you is, how many solutions do you think I should get here? 5. How do you know? That degree here is 5, so I should be getting 5 solutions, okay? Now some of them might be repeated. If it's repeated twice, that takes care of 2 and that'll only leave me 3, okay? So keep that in mind as you go through. So my first step with any equation is to make it equal what? 0. So what should I move where? Move that 4x squared to the other side. That's exactly right. All right, so I have 8x to the 5th plus x squared equals 0. Everybody good there? And now I need to start factoring. The first step in factoring is to always do what? Take out a GCF. Is there a GCF here? X squared. What's left if I take that out? Am I completely factored now? No, because this is the sum of 2 cubes. That's exactly right. It's the 3. All right, so I'm going to keep this x squared here. This is little parenthesis, big parenthesis, still equals 0. Fill in your signs first. What are they? Same? There you go. What times itself 3 times gives you, bless you, 8x cubed? 2 what? X. What times itself 3 times gives you 1. Now use that to fill in your second set of parentheses, okay? Square the first. Put them together in the middle. And square the last one in the last spot. Is anybody totally confused right now? Because so far that's nothing new, right? That's what we've been doing. All right, now for the new stuff. Do you agree that I'm completely factored? Could I factor that quadratic right there any further? Some of you say yes, and some of you say no. When you do a sum or difference of 2 cubes, that quadratic's never going to factor further for you because nothing multiplies to 4 but adds to -2. It's not going to work. It's very close to a perfect square trinomial, but it's not. I'm going to have to use the quadratic formula for that. So this is going to be a tough one, okay? All right, so let's go through. Remember, how many solutions did I need to find for this one? 5, right? So let's go through. This one goes to 0 the way it is, right? But it happens twice. That's exactly right. So x equals 0, but I'm just going to make a mark that here that this has multiplicity of 2. Now that you know what you do about multiplicity, tell me what's happening at 0. What does that mean? It bounces. You're exactly right. Job. So here, whatever's happening, this is my 0. It's going to come right up to the axis and bounce right off. It's not actually going to go through. Does that make sense to everybody how I'm using that? Okay. All right. So now, let me set this piece to 0. If 2x plus 1 equals 0, that's an easy solve, right? So 2x is -1, which x is -1/2. All right, I've got 2 solutions and 3. I'm lacking 2 more solutions. And I've got this quadratic that we already said couldn't be factored. Oh my gosh, right? What do you do with a quadratic that you can't factor? I would put it in quadratic formula. You could complete the square, you could graph it and find all that, but that's a lot of work. I'm just going to go ahead with quadratic formula. All right, here we go. X equals opposite b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. And now I'm just going to clean it up a bit. I got 4 minus 16 over 8, which is -12. I can split that 12 up, right? 4 and 3, which would give me 2. It is negative, so I'm going to put the I in here. It absolutely does. It absolutely does. I'm going to clean this up just a little bit more. I'm going to divide everybody by 2. You don't have to do that. But you're exactly right. That counts for 2 of my solutions because of the plus and minus here. So here's 2 solutions. They all have multiplicity of 1 except for this very first solution. So let's see. Here's 2 solutions, here's 1 solution, and here's 2 more. So 2 plus 1 plus 2 is 5, and that gives me my 5 solutions. So every place else, it goes through except for the 0. Now these are imaginary, so you wouldn't see these when you graph. That was a tough one. But I hope you see you really already knew how to do all this. It's just pulling it all together. Somebody asked for, yeah, 8. All right, so as I look at 8, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that looks like an itty-bitty equation to have to come up with how many solutions for? 3, right? So as I look at this, I'm going to go ahead and make it equal 0. Everybody okay there? So 16x cubed minus 54 equals 0. Always look for a GCF before you do anything else. Does this one have a GCF? At the very least, they're divisible by 2, right? Because they're both even. Is there anything else, or is that it? I think it's just 2. That would leave me with 8x cubed minus 27. Oh, gracious. What do I have? Difference of cubes, right? So here we go. Little parenthesis, big parenthesis. What do the signs look like? That's right. What goes in the first spot? 2x. What goes in the second spot? There you go. Now use that to write your second parentheses. Square it together and square it. That's okay. You squared them. That's okay. You don't even have to look at this quadratic any further. It's not going to ever factor any further for you. So I can go ahead with solving. 2 is not going to equal 0, so I don't have to worry about that. 2x minus 3 equals 0. So I get 3 over 2. Here's one solution. Am I going through the axis or bouncing at the axis for that one? Through. How do you know? It's got multiplicity of 1, and 1's an odd number, right? So it just goes straight through. All right. What am I going to do here? Quadratic formula. Opposite b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4 times a times c all over. Let's see. Plus or minus the square root of 36. What is 16 times 9? Quick, Miles. 16 times 9. What is it? Under here, that's what I don't know. You did that in your head that fast? Now, what's 36 minus 144? Anybody? Negative 108. We'll break 108 down. What's the perfect square that I can divide into it? 9? Bigger than 9, right? 36. 36 and 3. Yeah, make sure you do break it up if you can. And then simplify this down. So divide them all by 2 minus 3i root 3. Say it again. The ones outside, right? Because 8 can't be divided by 3. Does that give me the solutions I need? Yeah, 2 and 3. A little bit easier than what you made it yesterday, you think? Yeah. Any others that you need me to work from your, yeah, 9. This is where everything really comes together. All the different things that you've learned and ways that you've learned to factor come together. So this one's not a quadratic, but it is quadratic form, right? And quadratic form means even, half, constant. So I can factor it just like normal. How many solutions should I get? 4, that's exactly right. What multiplies to negative 42x to the 4th but adds to 1x squared? 6 and 7, that's right. Which one's negative and which one's positive? Negative 6x squared and positive 7x squared. Everybody okay there? So x to the 4th minus 6x squared plus 7x squared minus 4. Slash it. What can I take out of the first 2? What's left? What can I take out of this last 2? What's left? All right, so I got x squared minus 6, x squared plus 7, and you might go, but how in the world am I getting 4 solutions from this, right? Can I factor that any further? That's not a perfect square. If that was a perfect square, I could. It's not. So I'm just going to go ahead and set them equal to 0. What happens when you take the square root of a number? It's plus or minus. There's 2 solutions. And then when I do this side, there it is. But it didn't make any sense. What else? Oh. I thought y'all said something about the ones with 4. If you got this, some of you are bored because you understand this. You got it from yesterday. So if you are, I'll let you get started on your other stuff. So we're not. I really, in all honesty, I didn't mean to leave you as many as what I did yesterday. Right. I was doing long division until everybody came in crying. So, well, yes. I'd planned to teach you long division. Have we done? Oh, I thought polynomial long division. It actually is exactly like regular long division, but we use polynomials for it. All right, let me run through this one. Do you have a GCF? On 2x squared. If I take 2x squared out, what's left? X to the 4th Can I factor that? Quadratic form, that's right. So what multiplies to negative 24x to the fourth but adds to negative 5x squared? Oh, it's okay. How do I know what? Yes. If it's even, half of that one, and then this is a constant. Tell you now. Negative 5x squared, negative 8x squared, and 3x squared. So I'm going to keep running through this. I got x to the fourth minus 8x squared plus 3x squared minus 24. What can I take out of the first two here? X squared. And what's left? 8. Take a 3 out of the second two, leaves me with, it should be the same thing. And this 2x squared is just following this problem right on down. I got x squared minus 8. I got x squared plus 3 equals 0. Can I factor any of those pieces any further? No. 8's not a perfect square, and I can never do it if there's a plus in the middle unless it's cubes. So I am ready to set everything to 0. Yep, everybody goes to 0. How many solutions should I get? 6, right? This was a big polynomial. My degree was 6 to start with, so that's how many solutions I should get. When I get here, x equals what? 0, right? Because if I divide by 2, I get 0, and if x squared equals 0. But the multiplicity here is 2. It happens twice, right? Because it happens, because this would really be like x, like if I divided both sides by 2, right? I get x squared equals 0, which is x times x. So it's actually happening twice. It's happening 0 twice. So that's why it's multiplicity of 2. If I had something like this, right, this would be negative 1, but the multiplicity would be 5. Right, and this would be through. All right, so let's see how we get 6 solutions. All right, so 0 gives me 2, right, because it's multiplicity of 2. So that counts for 2 solutions. Here, when I solve, I get x squared equals 8. When I take the square root, I can break this up, right, 4 and 2. So I get 2 root 2, but because it's a radical, I have to put a plus or minus in front. That's 2 more. So now I've got 4, right? There's 2 more. And the same thing with this one. I get plus or minus. I'm going to do the I because it's negative, and there's my last 2. So there are my 6 solutions. The plus or minus. So this is really saying I root 3 and negative I root 3. I know, right? Huh. Sure. Let me what? 11 on the next page. It's a 4-piecer. Okay, so the 4-piece ones really are set up for you to already do grouping, to go ahead and slash is what they are. So if you see 4, go ahead and try to slash and see if you can. In other words, if I do this, what can I take out of the first 2? X squared. What's left? 2x minus Keep the middle sign. What can I take out of the last two? 20. And what's left? 2x minus 5. That's okay. Now, because these are exactly the same, I can do 2x minus 5, x squared plus 20. Nothing factors any further, so I'm ready to solve. And then for this one, x squared plus 20 equals 0. So x squared is negative 20. Square root on both of them. Remember that plus or minus every time I take a square root. 2i, 4 and 5, I can split up.